Hi, Marco from Inspector Detector. We're now going to go ahead and do the exterior of the home. Always have a look at the home from a distance. I've got my tablet. I like doing my whole inspection on my tablet. I have my software on it, all my categories. I take a picture, put it straight away. I take a picture of the home so that I can put it on the overview page so I know what the home looks like that I've just inspected. Okay. Always look in general around the home, look at the roof, look where the siding meets the roof, look especially in the valleys of the roof. Where the valleys meet, there's supposed to be a cut line of where the shingle overlaps. The reason is if you look at the manufacturer specification, that's how they want the valleys to be done. I don't write it up in the summary that if it's been woven through, and this is only on architectural shingles. I just put it on the information that they must be aware that the valleys have been woven through and the manufacturer specifications are that it's cut. So verbally put it in there very nicely because there's not much they can do about it other than rip the roof off and redo it, which doesn't really work. I've done the roof inspection this morning with binoculars and a drone. Please make sure if you use your drone that you put a limitation in, because if you just say drone inspection and you don't put limitations in, or binoculars or by ladder, some people walk on a roof. Please, you do not have to walk on a roof. You only live once. It takes one time to slip. The younger guys tend to do it. Us older guys, when we get to the age where we go, you know what, we've done it enough times, and with technology today, a drone makes it very easy, but write up limitations that you can't see every corner, because Murphy's Law, the one corner you didn't look at is normally where there's a problem, and if you didn't put a limitation in that you are not able to see every angle of the roof, you could become liable for that. So after you've taken the picture, you have a look, always look at the plants in the front of the home, look at the drainage, that the water can drain away from the home. If they put flower beds where the water can get contained in, tell them to put weeping holes in there. The plants in front of the home on this one are very close to the foundation. That becomes a limitation, and tell them, especially with wooden siding, that there should be a statement they need to cut about 10 inches of the plant away from the foundation. So I'll be taking a picture of both of these. Beware, pictures are not your home inspection report. Pictures are there to identify and better for the client to understand. Your summary explanation should be able be that the client understand what the problem is without a picture. So please don't just put a picture and say plants are close to the foundation. Put there plants are too close to the foundation on the front side of the house. Please give people directions. Windows are always very important. Wooden windows, make sure you look at the trim around it, especially at the base. Normally the wood rots at the bottom of the window. Take your probe. If it looks rotten, it normally looks like a crinkle cut, wavy look on the paint. Stick your probe in there. If it goes in, take a picture, get it evaluated. Also, when people get new windows installed on from an old home, they normally put a flashing around the window. Please write that up as a limitation, and I would put in it in the summary to say get it evaluated. Make sure they caulk all the way around the windows. So make sure all the windows on any kind of siding is caulked unless they've got a J channel running around the window for vinyl siding. Very important, because water penetration is your biggest problem. If you do see water rot and you've had a lot of rain, take your infrared camera, look at the wall from inside the home to see if there is any moisture in the walls. I always take a picture of the area I'm going to inspect, like the porch. I do this so I can put it in the overview, so you got the main picture and then all the explanations. When you come to a patio area, always look at, you need a graspable handrail. This is a new code that just came out. We're not code inspectors, but put it down. If it's wider, it went from 4 inches to 2 inches. Today, a graspable handrail is required. This is small enough, but normally with the wood, they need a graspable handrail like you got on a normal staircase. Look at the steps going up, make sure there's no cracks and it's filled in nicely. If there's cracks, write it up. If repairs have been done, write it up. Also when, we got a crawl space under here, when you have a dirt-filled front porch, please beware, this is the Hilton Hotel for termites. A home inspection is not a termite inspection. Put that limitation in your report as well, but beware, if it's out there and you can visibly see it, write it up. Always look around the perimeter where it meets the exterior wall. 2 things you're looking for is to make sure there's no cracks around there. Also be sure to look for drilled holes in the slab of the porch, because that would indicate termite treatment, and put that as well up in your report. I do carry my camera around. I take extra pictures. I'm not going to do it now while we're doing it to save time. So I take a picture up, look on the top of the ceiling over here. Very popular place for wood rot to look out for is the base of the wooden frame on the front door, especially if there's not a patio area, porch area. Also when you open the door, not so much the storm door, but if you open the door, the heel at the back of the door and the frame, there is a high potential that I always find some sort of water damage and wood rot. The windows, you look at the windows here, make sure you look in these corners here. If you have caulking, these have been caulked nicely, but over time sometimes the caulking does crack and dry. Please write up, have the windows caulked, put that in the summary. However, like these are nicely caulked, I do put a statement in my informational for the exterior saying investigate the windows and that the caulking is still in good condition, or have it recaulked every so many years. So that way you're giving information for the client as well, because you want to make sure they maintain their home. So you look around, you look at the ceiling to make sure there's no gaps for bats or especially squirrels to get into. Look at the trim around these posts are nicely sealed. Look at the base. These are not wood, so that's great, but the base often is wood and that does rot. So again, have a look, have your probe, stick it in there, have a look at it straight. I've often seen that inside there is usually the main post that supports the roof. This is just a feature around the post, but sometimes they skew and it just doesn't look good. It's not detrimental, just write it up. Everything you find, refer it to a licensed contractor. Even and especially if you're not sure, when in doubt, write it up. That will protect you. Rather let a licensed contractor come tell them there's nothing wrong, then what you go, no, it's fine, and guess what? You just bought a pillar for the front porch to be repaired. Here's a very good example of a garden feature that keeps the wall in. You will notice there's no weep holes here. So what's happening, the water from over here is all coming down. This is filling up with water and it's not draining. Now this is a bit away from the home, but over there it's near the foundation. So I just take a picture and write it up in this summary that they need to put some weep holes in here just for better protection of water from the home itself. Always look underneath the soffits. Older homes especially, there is no soffit vents. Look at the ridge, make sure there's ridge vents. If you have a gable vent, that's also good. Beware, you don't want to have a gable, ridge and soffit vents due to the fact the ventilation you want from the soffit going out the top. Now, if they didn't have a ridge, it would go in the soffit, out the gable. But if they close the gable or there is no gable, it's going to go in the soffit, out the ridge vent. So if they have all three, the gables must be closed off. Otherwise, the ventilation in the roof won't be good. Look at your gutters, that your gutter lines are correct. Make sure that they've got fall. You can't always see it very well, but the best way to see it is look at the fascia. You will notice the fascia board on the left side, like this gutter over here. The right side is about 4 inches and the left side is 2 inches. That will tell you there is a gradual fall. So use the fascia, which is level, and then look at the angle of the gutter. When you look at dormers on the roof, 2 things especially to look out for is whether the siding is touching the shingles. There should be a gap of about 1 inch because you don't want water sucking up, whether it is wood, vinyl, whatever siding. You need that gap because otherwise water will suck up in there. So look at that. At the front of the dormers where the window trims are, especially the trim in the front at the base, also there must be about 1 inch gap. You don't want that touching the shingles. And look for wood rot, especially if the home is older. And then the fascias on the side of the dormers, again, make sure the fascias are not touching the siding. The newer homes, they do use better products that don't absorb water. Older homes, be very aware, it's wood, and you will probably find water damage and wood rot over there. I always take a picture from the side of the home. The reason I do that is that I've got all angles of the home, and also if I ever need to go back and look at something, I can enlarge it. And then I take a picture also with my camera. Yeah, you got 2 different sidings. You've got your brick siding, you've got your fiber cement siding. Make sure you put it in your description of your report what particular siding there is. So if you've got stone siding, vinyl siding, make sure you just write it in what material is used on the exterior of the home. One thing that you've got to be very aware of, these underground drainage systems look pretty. Make sure you put a statement in your report in the summary where it says please make sure that it works. And I always say it goes from somewhere to nowhere because you don't know where it comes out, and they got to make sure they open. Often I got burnt when I was starting home inspections because it was a very expensive home and roots had got into the whole system, and the client wanted to sue me for the underground system. Also, when you look at a foundation wall over here, always look along the side so you don't see termite tubes coming up, especially if the foundation is lower. Always make sure that the siding and the brick or the concrete down to the grass or soil level, there must be at least 6 to 4 inches. You don't want the soil touching the siding because again, it's a quick way for termites to start channeling up into the home. Make sure when you come to a crawl space like this that the vents have mesh on it, otherwise rodents and snakes and that can get inside. You will notice with older homes that you will have step cracks, especially if the foundation is lower. This one's pretty high. If you have a much lower foundation, you'll have a step crack sometimes. They're called settlement cracks. Please do not say settlement, structural crack. You are not an engineer. Just say cracks noted on the front left side of the home. get a licensed contractor to evaluate. If you see that the crack is especially horizontal or it has quite a big crack, I always say if your pinky can go in it, that is definitely a concern, and that you do put through to an engineer to evaluate it. So have a look at that. Look at the mortar. If you see a discoloration in different color of mortar, that's an indication that repairs have been done. Again, write it up in your report under summary so that the owners can explain to the buyers why that repair's been done. And you got to make sure so that you cover yourself. You've got your crawl space door over here. I normally like to open it. This one is a bit stiff. Two reasons, so we can get a bit of fresh air in there before I go into the crawl space. Second reason, I've had cats in there, I've had a possum in there, and by the time I come back, they're walking out as I'm about to go in. So it does help to open it up. Have a look again. Fiber cement siding, important to look at. This is quite a new home. You can look in between here. You should have a piece of flashing underneath the joint over here. You'll notice on your older homes, especially with wood and that, they would have put a steel joint over here over it, and before they started doing the flashing, they did caulking. So please beware to have a look. If the home is a little bit older and there is no caulking, make sure there's flashing. If you don't see it or you can't see it, write it up in the summary. Say unable to visually see if the house has been flashed, please have it investigated by a licensed contractor. Corrections may be needed, because you can't say must be needed, because you cannot give a definite answer whether it's there or not. You do get, especially with the new homes, you've got what's called a bug tube system. This runs through the exterior of the home on the walls. It's a small pipe with perforated holes in it. They come, they do treatment. It will then treat all the lower section of the wall at the exterior of the home. Explain that to the client. I always put this in the informational section, and it's very easy. They just scan this code over here, register with a company to get it done. Another thing also, I always look for termite bait stations. If I don't notice them, I do put it in my information report that there was no termite bait stations recorded. I highly recommend they get some sort of treatment done to protect the home. That helps you as well if at a later stage there's something you did mention that. If you do see termite bait stations, again, put it in the informational section that you noted them, to speak to the seller about if they got the bond and they can transfer it over. I always test the water pressure to make sure what the water pressure is. Have a look where the joints are over here on all of the trims to make sure it's been nicely caulked. Yeah, I can actually see this isn't caulked and it's loose. So I'll be taking a picture of that and then just putting their loose siding and sealing required or caulking required. I always take a far and a closer picture. That way they can actually physically see the problem. That there's nothing worse than a picture close by and they don't know where it is. But again, in your report, don't say loose siding, caulking required where the trim meets the siding. Say which side of the home, the right side, the left side, the back side, the front corner. Very important to indicate where the area is. If you see it in more areas, just say multiple locations. That is acceptable. Again, when you get windows here, especially window trims, make sure, especially new build, that there's caulking put in around the trim over here and all the way down and all along the side over here. don't notice anything here. You always look up to the top. I can see over here on the wall going up where the siding is meeting. It's curling a bit. It looks like they've put panel pins in there to get a better view. Have your binoculars available. Have a look. Again, you can see there's quite a few spots that are loose siding. Take a picture, right-hand side of the home, some loose siding, and be very careful when you do your presentation to your client. Don't say loose siding, put some nails in, get it caulked. Do not give them directions on how to fix the problem. That is not a home inspection and a home inspector's job. You just say to them, loose siding on the right side of the home, get a licensed contractor to further evaluate, repair or replace. Because if you tell them how to do it and that's not how it's done and it costs more, you can become liable as well. Your vents for your bathroom vents and especially your dryer vents for the laundry, make sure the flaps are in good condition. Sometimes they're under the soffit. Dryer vents, often I see they put the protective grid over it. That needs to be removed because the lint will build up. Even with the flap vents, the dryer vents, the lint builds up. Take a picture, have a look at it. If it's dirty, tell them to clean it. I also have a statement in my laundry section where we are unable to inspect the interior of the vent. Please get it cleaned once a year. Always make sure your HVAC unit is running on, if it's possible. You can't test your air conditioning unit under 60 degrees, and you can't test your heat pumps or furnaces if it's over 70, because you can cause an issue. It's always good to have this running because you want to hear that it's not rattling or making a noise when you do the whole inspection. There is a video that you can go to on how to inspect. These bushes are quite close, however they have been trimmed away, so that's what you want to see, at least 10 inches. Look at the fins, look at that the motor's running, look at the insulation for the Freon, and always take a picture of the data plate. Always step back from the unit, make sure that it's pretty level. Where the Freon lines come out of the home, make sure it's caulked around there. And just look from all sides to make sure. And also if you have one unit for the home, make sure you mention that there's one unit that provides air to both floors of the home. Take a picture sometimes of if there's severe damage to a downspout. This one is pretty badly damaged. You can see this is usually from the weed eaters when the guys come and clean the home. Is there anything you can do? Basically replace it. Is it detrimental? The water should flow out. You do have a bait station over here. So I do know this home now has termite bait stations. I didn't see more, so I will pay attention to that. Again, I will go back, take a picture of the home like this. I noticed there is a skylight over here for the back deck area with a covered roof. Make sure you mention that there's a limitation. People paint around it at the base on the ceiling so you can't see if it's leaking at that moment. It's dirty, so make sure you do put a limitation because you are not able to fully investigate and to see whether it's waterproof. Over here you've got a paved area at the back. Again, I take a picture of it. I put this paved or concrete area as a patio. Over here we have a retaining wall. This isn't too bad. The water's able to flow away on the side. They've made it nicely that it goes down, and where there's a lot it can flow over the wall. However, a lot of straight retaining walls, the soil behind is lower. You don't know if it's been waterproofed or everything. The one thing you got to look for is weep holes. That's a pipe that's been drilled right through. The reason the weep hole does, if moisture comes down, a lot of rain goes behind the wall and it puts a lot of pressure on it. And especially with wooden retaining walls, that moisture will stay there and start rotting the retaining wall out. So weep holes will then drain the water and will put much less pressure onto the wall itself. We have stairs over here going up to the back deck. Anything with 3 steps or more requires a handrail with spindles. Little Johnny's going to run up here and he's going to fall down. Grandma's going to come out and slip. They need to be able to grab on something. Also, when the deck's a bit higher and you got stairs like this, you need to have an exterior light where the stairs are. That is a safety issue because you don't want to walk or come down these stairs when it's dark in the evening. Again, stand back, have a look, use your binoculars on the roof. When you see the black lines, a lot of people mistaken those for heat from the roof. That's also, you got to be aware, because mildew, because of the granule, especially on older roofs, the granules are losing and mildew starts growing there, and over time, if it doesn't dry enough the water, it turns to moss. So if you see black lines, write it down as mildew, have a roofer investigate it. If you can't see a particular section of the exterior of the home, make sure limitation. I have a general limitation when it's a 2-story home that we're not able to physically see every section of it, just to protect you, because you are not able to see everything. When you get to an enclosed patio or deck, just have a look that the screen is nicely done. Make sure there's spindles all the way. Beware, especially with older homes, they don't put posts in, so it's just a railing, a long railing with spindles. A deck is a complete separate inspection. Go on YouTube, have a look at a video, go on a course, that's very worth it, how to inspect a deck. Also beware, like this deck hasn't got bolts, it doesn't have the posts. My statement is we got to inspect the house on today's standards and safety codes. However, my statement would be the deck was built correctly at the time when the house was built. However, today certain changes are required. Get a licensed contractor to further evaluate, repair and replace, and then I list bolts are missing, posts are missing, so that in other words, it was correct when it was built. Today it would be different. Again, look at the plants over here, make sure the water drains away. We are not responsible for all the drainage around the home, but you want to make sure that there's a slight slope away and it going around. If there's any areas that you can see where there's standing water, take a picture, write it up in your report. You will sometimes see a pipe hanging out under the soffit. That is usually the overflow pipe for the pan of the HVAC system. Make sure that it's in front of a window. Sometimes it's not done. It's required to be in front of a window, that if there's an issue with the HVAC system, that you can see the water coming down. Again, you've got a lot of plants growing very close to the home over here. It's a limitation as well because you are not able to see the foundation. You'd hate to tell them to trim it away and suddenly there's a problem with the foundation. There's a couple of more siding that's a little loose. This is very common with an old home due to the heat expansion. So the heat contraction, sometimes they put the siding too close together and when it expands, it pops out a bit. Usually they just attach extra panel pins or screws to strengthen it. Always look at the electrical, make sure your grounding wire is secure and that the grounding rod is below the soil. You should not be able to see it. If it's sticking out a couple of inches, please write it down. I always tell clients, do not go take a hammer and hit it in. The worst thing you could do is that, because it can shatter the rod at halfway, and because there's probably a reason why it hasn't gone all the way down. So anything gets done, they must get a licensed contractor. Always look at your gas meter that's coming in. I usually bring my natural gas detector. I leave it over here. Do it always where the joints are, over here, where the expansion is. Stand around. You can smell, make sure it's corked all the way around where the line goes into the home. Look back, make sure it hasn't been damaged or bumped in any way. You come around to the front of the home. If you have a limitation, I have a vehicle parked in front of the home on the driveway. It's a limitation. I don't know what's underneath it. The same with the garage. If there's any limitation, write it up. If you can't see it, write it up. It's very important, because if you don't write it up, they're going to phone you back and say, oh, there was a huge hole in the concrete on the driveway. And you're going to say, yeah, but there was a car parked there. You're going to be liable. If you can't see it, write it up why you can't. The garages, look around the trim of the garages. Bring the garage doors down. When you do the inspection on the exterior, look at all the panels from the outside, push against them to see if they're not wobbly. Stand back, take a photo of the door. Also, with this home, we have an additional single garage on the side. There is no door going into it. This particular unit has a key that will unlock the garage door, so that if the motor doesn't work or the electrical goes out, you can still disconnect the garage door. Sometimes there's an additional line on the top corner you can pull to open it, but make sure there is an additional way to open the garage from the exterior of the home without power. Because there's nothing worse than the power goes out or the GFCI makes the motor go out and you can't get into your garage. When you look at the roof where it comes against the siding, you will always have flashing. Make sure the top of the flashing is nicely caulked, and then at the bottom where the gutter meets the siding, a brick siding, it's not required, but if you've got wooden siding, fiber siding, you always need an inch gap between the end of the gutter and the siding. And also, if you look at this one, you need what's called a kick-out flashing. Basically, the water that comes down the side of the wall, it kicks it out away from the wall into the gutter, preventing water running down the wall and onto the siding.